Hey, look, another dork on YouTube's crafting an unnecessary list for clout and views. Yep.
You suck, you jackass.
Halloween's a time of year when everyone seems to lose their mind.
Happy f***ing Halloween.
Football is omnipresent, the weather begins to cool, bank accounts start to empty in preparation for the jolly fat man, and kids preemptively work their bodies down a long, drawn-out road to type 2 diabetes.
Type 2 adult onset diabetes?
There's some movies I wanted to put on this list, like Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, The Exorcist 3, Gerald's Game, and Trick or Treat, but I feel those movies are perfectly rated these days. Like, would anyone actually consider those films underrated anymore? Thank you to all who've come to check this channel out. If you stay till the end, please drop us a like, maybe a subscription. I personally would greatly appreciate it. Anyway, let's stop wasting time and get to the list. I'll keep these mostly spoiler-free, so let's discuss.
13 underrated horror movie gems.
Number 13, As Above, So Below. Alrighty, kicking off the list at lucky number 13 is the 2014 film As Above, So Below, directed by John Eric Dowdle and co-written by his brother Drew. The film's a thrilling journey into the depths of the Paris catacombs, complete with real skeletons and winding tunnels. When this movie first came out, it was at the tail end of the found footage horror movie phenomena, so audiences soured on it from the get-go. If one of you were to check out the decaying Italian fruit website, one might notice a horrendous critical score and a not-so-great audience score, respectively. It's hard for me to wrap my head around the poor reception this film received, but when you look at when it was released, it makes a little more sense. Now, would I consider this a great movie? Certainly not. But it's a solid horror film that presents viewers with a relatively interesting concept and a lot of claustrophobic, realistic terror. A relatively known, maybe unknown fact about this film is that it was the first production ever to secure permission from the French government to film in the catacombs. So to me, that adds an extra layer of authenticity to the chilling atmosphere. Little do most people know, the film's plot's inspired by Dante's Inferno, with the protagonist's journey mirroring Dante's descent through the 9 circles of hell. This complex rendering of hell closely reflects the quest of the film's protagonist Scarlett Marlowe, making for a relatively layered world building. Performances are commendable. The stars, Perdita Weeks and Ben Feldman, who most would recognize as this guy.
I feel bad for you.
I don't think about you at all.
The film's direction's fast and energetic, and the scares are genuine, creating an uncanny tension. The film also incorporates elements from various mythologies, including Egyptian history, Knights of Templar, alchemist mythology, and religion, making it a modern retelling of Dante's Inferno. For a film that has such a low score with critics, it has a surprising amount of thought and depth put into it. I personally despise movies that rely on the parlor trick of jump scares, but As Above, So Below utilizes them masterfully, which I personally believe is one of the film's better aspects. While I think some of the film's criticisms are legit, mainly that the middle of the film veers into cliché mediocrity, and it can be a little hard to follow upon first viewing. That said, this is an underrated gem that is gaining in popularity as of late. If you haven't seen this movie, throw this on late at night, turn the volume up, and tell me it's a shit horror movie. I dare you. Number 12, Freaky. Some of the movies on this list rate from serious to super serious, so we gotta sprinkle in a little bit of fun for some levity.
I'm super serial.
Freaky's a movie that came out amid the COVID pandemic and got unjustly lost in the shuffle. It's an 80s throwback film filled with every possible trope, and that's only part of what makes this movie so great. Directed by Happy Death Day's Christopher Landon and produced by Jason Blum, the film's the perfect blend of slasher, horror, and body swap comedy with just a hint of coming-of-age drama. The film stars Vince Vaughn and Katherine Newton in a story of a high school girl swapping bodies with a notorious serial killer, the Blissfield Butcher. The film's a clever twist on the Freaky Friday concept, with the film initially titled Freaky Friday the 13th.
Right.
The film's humor is well balanced with its horror elements and creative and bloody kills. If you're a fan of the Happy Death Day movies, this is far more graphic in the context of violence. Some of the kills are over-the-top brutal, but they're almost like a throwback to the 80s. If you've ever wanted to see Vince Vaughn play a Jason Voorhees-like serial killer and a teenage girl, you won't be disappointed in his performance in this film. Katherine Newton's commendable as the body swap serial killer as well. While Freaky is ridiculously fast-paced, at the film's heart lies an unexpectedly emotional core about family love and loss. It has surprisingly touching and tender moments, just like the Happy Death Day movies. Freaky isn't scary, but it is fun, funny, heartfelt, and has a satisfying ending. If you're anything like me, you'll enjoy the hell out of this. Number 11, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Next on the list's an almost cult classic, yet it's still very underrated as far as I'm concerned. Halloween 3: Season of the Witch is directed by Tommy Lee Wallace and produced by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. This film is a unique entry in the Halloween franchise in that it deviates from the slasher genre of the other installments and instead features a witchcraft theme with science fiction aspects. While this film does have a bit of a low-key cult following, it's by many others despised by the mere fact that Michael Myers isn't anywhere in this film. Well, that's not true. He appears in an ad, on a television, in a bar. But that's the extent of his presence in the film. It revolves around a Halloween mask company called the Silver Shamrock that has ties to witchcraft and seeks to sacrifice millions of children using said masks on the night of Halloween as part of a massive pagan ritual. This plot is a clever twist on the Halloween concept, and it's a shame that this entry in the franchise isn't more appreciated. It also has that ridiculously corny song that will be stuck in your head anytime the Halloween season approaches.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
You're welcome.
While this movie is far from perfect, the performances are ridiculous. The movie's first act is convoluted and becomes somewhat of an unintentional comedy. Even with the deviation from the series formula, Halloween 3 has a unique story that's often emulated. It also serves as an homage to Invasion of the Body Snatchers with the fictional town of Santa Mira and a similar plot such as snatching bodies or replacing them with androids. While I don't consider Halloween 3 the greatest entry in the Halloween series, it's certainly the most unique and talked about amongst horror fans. While it may be divisive for some, I personally love the movie. My not-so-subtle opinion? This is far superior than the most recent entries into the Halloween series. Number 10, Ready or Not. Chalk this one up as a surprise for me. I thought the trailer for Ready or Not was excellent, but when it was released, I heard little to nothing about it. It seemingly came and went in theaters, and then only because of the recommendation of a compadre did I invest the time and check it out. Boy, am I glad I did. Ready or Not's a 2019 horror film that's as entertaining as it is underrated. It's a darkly comedic, gory romp that takes the phrase meeting the in-laws to a whole new level. The film's lead and Margot Robbie's doppelganger from the same land down under, Samara Weaving, delivers a spectacular performance. She plays Grace, a bride who finds herself in a deadly game of hide-and-seek on her wedding night. The supporting cast, including Adam Brody, Andy McDowell, and Henry Czerny, also deliver strong performances. The film's pacing's fast and doesn't overstay its welcome with plotting storyline. The script's smart, submersive, and darkly funny, offering a giddily entertaining bite. The film's climax is a gleefully bloody post-wedding massacre, literally and metaphorically burning down the house of a bunch of elitist assholes. Overall, Ready or Not's one of the more fun horror movies that I literally never hear anyone discuss. Put this on the list.
Do it. Do it.
Number 9, Drag Me to Hell. If, like me, you're a huge fan of Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead franchise, then 2009's Drag Me to Hell will leave you with a huge smile on your face. Directed by Sam Raimi, the film's a roller coaster ride of horror and humor, with a potent message about the consequences of selfish desires. Some even consider this to be Sam Raimi's unofficial fourth Evil Dead movie, given its similar blend of horror and comedy. And if you've seen it, let's be honest, it looks and plays and feels just like an Evil Dead movie.
And that's a good thing.
The film's lead, Alison Lohman, delivers a compelling performance as Christine, a loan officer who finds herself cursed by a gypsy woman after refusing to extend her mortgage. Justin Long, who plays her boyfriend Clay, also delivers a strong performance, driving the narrative forward alongside Lohman. The film's humor is well executed, with one scene known among fans as the goat scene being particularly memorable for its comedic value. The film also has its fair share of scary moments, with the horror being both startling and often funny. Christine's decision to deny the gypsy woman's request for a mortgage extension in order to look good for her boss and move up the corporate ladder sets off a chain of events that literally drags her to hell. The ending of Drag Me to Hell is chillingly horrifying and perfect. Seriously, I wouldn't change one thing about it. Number 8, In the Mouth of Madness. In the Mouth of Madness, directed by John Carpenter and released in 1995, is the third and final film in John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, following The Thing and Prince of Darkness. The trilogy isn't connected by characters or events, but rather by shared themes and ideas, particularly the exploration of apocalyptic scenarios and the testing of faith in God, humanity, and oneself. Sam Neill's the lead here and delivers a compelling performance as John Trent, a freelance insurance investigator in a small town investigating the disappearance of a Stephen King-like successful horror novelist, Sutter Kane. As the lines between reality and fiction blur, Trent's sanity begins to unravel, leading to a series of events that are as terrifying as they are intriguing. In the Mouth of Madness is a wild acid trip, but it may be Carpenter's most scary movie. Not jump scares, but from a psychological aesthetic perspective. Now this may be me reading into things, but Carpenter appeared to have despised Stephen King long before the rest of us who've had to endure him on Twitter these last few years. The film explores the idea of reality versus fiction and the power of belief. It showcases what happens when the consumer becomes the one who's consumed after having sought escapism in a world far more exciting than the one that was left behind. The film's a testament to the unwavering power of conviction, brilliantly showcasing how we, the audience, are the ones who perpetuate and reinforce whichever narrative we choose to believe in, thereby contributing to the creation of a collective reality. Just look at social media. Many consider Madness to be Carpenter's last good film, and I fall into this category. If you've missed this one, as many have, stop doing what you're doing and watch it now. You'll probably agree that this is one of Carpenter's most unique and underrated works. Number 7, Dr. Sleep. Mike Flanagan has made quite a name for himself over recent years. Until recently, I was one of the minions singing his praises from the highest mountain I could climb. Honestly, his filmography of underrated horror gems could take up a number of spots on this list. Still, the movie that stands apart in its brilliance is 2019's box office bomb Dr. Sleep, the official sequel to The Shining. Flanagan has a unique way of crafting horror while telling a story that hits us in the feels, and Dr. Sleep is a great example of highlighting his talent as a storyteller. Ewan McGregor's the lead here and delivers a compelling performance as Dan Torrance, a man struggling with alcoholism and traumatic memories of his childhood at the Overlook Hotel. McGregor's portrayal of Torrance is nuanced and emotionally resonant, capturing the character's internal struggles and journey towards redemption. Rebecca Ferguson, who's in virtually every production nowadays, plays the antagonist Rose the Hat, and she's equally excellent. The scenes involving her and her gang known as the True Knot are intense and at times hard to watch. There's one scene in particular that would chill you to your core if you're a parent, so be forewarned. Dr. Sleep explores themes of addiction, recovery, and the power of belief. The film delves deep into Dan's fight to overcome his addiction, providing a poignant and realistic portrayal of the struggles and rewards of recovery. Despite being a sequel to The Shining, Dr. Sleep manages to stand on its own, offering a unique and compelling narrative that complements rather than emulates its predecessor. The film pays respect to Stephen King's original novel and Stanley Kubrick's film adaptation. After the credits rolled, I was left with an emotional and satisfying feeling. The Shining is one of my favorite movies of all time, yet the sequel was able to bring out the emotion that was lacking in the Kubrick film. Dr. Sleep's truly a gem of a film, and if you are even the slightest fan of The Shining, this should be seen and appreciated for years to come. Add it to your Halloween movie list. Number 6, Green Room. Green Room not only belongs on this list of underrated horror movies, but on a list of underrated films in general. Green Room was released in 2015 and is directed by Jeremy Saulnier. The film's premise is simple yet effective. A punk rock band finds themselves trapped in a secluded venue fighting for their lives against a group of violent neo-Nazis led by the chilling antagonist Darcy Banker, played by Patrick Stewart. Stewart's performance is a standout, showcasing his versatility as an actor and making Darcy one of the most memorable villains in recent years. The Gone Too Soon Anton Yelkin delivers a compelling performance as Pat, the band's bassist, in one of his final roles before his untimely death. Green Room explores themes of survival, loyalty, and the lengths people will go to protect themselves and their loved ones. The film's message is delivered with brutal and unflinching intensity, and the violence in this film isn't Hollywoodized at all. It almost looks and feels real. Green Room's tense, brutal, and thought-provoking, and it balances horror and thriller elements with a compelling narrative and strong performances. This is the most realistic and brutal of all these films, but I think it's must watch. Number 5, The Empty Man. The Empty Man's an interesting film, and what I can only describe as one of the best prologues of any horror movie ever. It really sets the tone for the movie. The film's themes of cult, psychological horror, and the power of belief are explored in a thought-provoking and unsettling way here. The Empty Man was released in 2020 and directed by David Pryor. The film follows a former police officer investigating a mysterious cult and its connection to the supernatural entity, the Empty Man. The ending of The Empty Man is wild and thought-provoking, leaving the audience with lingering questions and unease. The film's message about the dangers of unchecked belief systems and the power of the mind is a chilling reminder of the potential horrors that can arise from human imagination. Give The Empty Man the old college try if you haven't already. Number 4, The Invitation. Not to be confused with the 2022 vampire film, 2015's The Invitation is a criminally underrated gem that deserves way more recognition. Directed by Karen Kusama, The Invitation's a movie that follows a man named Will, who attends a dinner party hosted by his ex-wife and new husband. As the night progresses, Will becomes increasingly suspicious of the couple's intentions, leading to a tense and unexpected ending. Logan Marshall Green is stellar in this role, delivering a compelling portrayal of a man haunted by his past. The Invitation explores themes of grief, loss, and how people cope with trauma. When watching this film, I couldn't help but ask myself, why the f would he go to a dinner party with his ex-wife? But hey, it made for a fascinating movie, I guess. Having lived in Hollywood for years, it's easy to find some of the characters pretentious and punchable, especially the ex-wife's new husband and his weird bald friend. And the ending of this film is...
That's a spicy meatball!
Number 3, Frailty. 20 plus years later, and it's hard for me to believe that Frailty's all but a long-forgotten gem of a film. Frailty's more like a horror-adjacent thriller than an all-out horror movie, but it has moments that can easily send chills up your spine. Frailty was released in 2001 and was directed by Bill Paxton in his directorial debut. The film tells the chilling tale of a father who enlists his 2 young sons on a mission to destroy demons disguised as humans after receiving a divine vision. The story's narrated by one of the sons, now an adult named Fenton, portrayed by Matthew McConaughey, in what may be one of his best performances. The film's an hour and a half long and takes place mostly through a flashback. While it's paced with perfection, some of the elements of the movie may feel a bit dated, but those aspects actually made me love the movie more upon a recent viewing. The film showcased Paxton's talent as a director and gave a glimpse of the range McConaughey would later go on to showcase. It's good stuff for horror buffs and just fans of film in general. Number 2, The Descent. And the silver medal goes to the low-key masterpiece, The Descent. The Descent came out in 2005, and it's a British horror thriller with a gripping storyline, intense atmosphere, and strong performances from its all-female cast. The movie was directed by Neil Marshall, and it follows a group of 6 women on a cave diving expedition that quickly turns into a descent into primal chaos and madness. This film's a masterpiece of contemporary horror cinema. It's relentless in its themes of grief, unresolved emotions, and accepting death as inevitable. Also, it features some excellent creatures that add a whole layer to the claustrophobic nature of the film. All in all, you can't go wrong with this film. Aside from the masterful filmmaking, one thing that really sells the movie are the performances. The cast are all relative unknowns, but they bring their A game to the movie, which makes the outcome much more impactful. Number 1, A Dark Song. And now, the moment you've been eagerly awaiting while I gloriously stroked my ego for the entirety of this video. The coveted top spot goes to A Dark Song from 2016, directed by Liam Gavin and starring Steve Oram and Catherine Walker. The film has a runtime of 99 minutes, and it tells a story of a bitter and grieving woman, Sophia Howard, who rents an isolated house in Wales to convince a short-tempered occultist, Joseph Solomon, to lead her in a grueling months-long ritual. What's interesting about this is the ritual performed in the movie is the Abramelin operation, which is actually an occult rite attempted by Gnostics such as Aleister Crowley. It is a slow burn of a film that unfolds like a play. The 2 leads are compelling and sympathetic and help anchor the film's emotional weight and intensity. There are some interesting choices for these characters, but I felt that they were necessary to push forward the events that unfold in the last 20 minutes. The last 20 minutes of this movie are wild. The film's theme is grief, loss, and the lengths people will go to find redemption. Without giving too much away, the film's ending's unexpected and divisive. It's undeniably memorable, and it stuck with me for days after initial viewing. I guarantee this will lead you down a deep dive rabbit hole discussing its meaning and emotional punch it delivers. As I mentioned, this isn't your typical horror movie, but it's a low-key masterpiece that absolutely earned its place on this list. If you watch it and hate it, I get it. But if you watch it and love it, I also get it. So there you have it, fam. That's my personal list of the top 13 underrated horror movie gems. I'm only one person and can only watch so many movies, so if you have some films that you feel belong here, give a brother a shout in the comments. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this far. It really means a lot. If you liked what you saw, do me a favor and like, share, and subscribe. You know, the thing you do on YouTube. So dim the lights, crank up the volume, and give these films a shot. The opinions expressed in this video are mine and mine alone. But what do I know? I'm but a mere jackass. Catch you later, friends.
Oh, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.